Hi, everyone. So, when was the last time that you built with Lego? I hear 2 weeks already. That's quite recent. I have to admit, my wife actually, I think a couple of days ago, but for me personally, it's quite a bit different because most of my Lego time was when I was young. I had this very big box, was living under my bed, but whenever I got it out, I was excited because I was putting things together. I built beautiful things out of that, at least that's how I looked at it, right? I built like these houses with all the bricks together, and you probably remember when you were young maybe that you built like these cars if it has 4 tires and it can move, then it's probably good enough, but still, that's something that makes you very exciting when you're young. I basically built like a bigger city with houses and cars and everything, right? And the interesting thing now is that if I look back at that, I loved it as a kid, but if I was a little Lego man living in that city, it would feel quite disorganized, all these blocks everywhere. It's not a city I would like to live in. And this is something that we got to do a little bit looking at our own company. We were working at ASML, and we had a chance to basically try to make our little city look a little bit brighter, make it a little bit better. And this is actually a picture that is based on a big maquette that we have in our building that people can look at, representing what we want our organization to look like, where actually the colors to some extent link back to Team Topologies, for example. So my name is Tom Slenders.
My name is Andrea Kletke. And together with Tom and a couple of colleagues here in the audience, please stand up. So the front row. We had the last year we were leading the rollout of Team Topologies and platform engineering inside ASML IT, in a role as officially as change manager and agile coach. But what we really did is basically we did everything from management buy-in to implementation. It was really cool. So we designed it was a hell of a lot of work. It was mega challenging. I've had easier jobs in life, to be totally honest. So we designed the approach. We formed the teams from volunteers to do analysis and rollout. We discussed and implemented the communication plan. We did the stakeholder management. So a bit of everything. And we want to share with you a couple of experience, because we also, while we were doing it, we were reaching out quite a lot to the community, to other companies. We heard from them. We learned a lot. And we've been thinking, what is the best way how we can give back and how we can share, and especially get really cool ideas from you guys and get inspired from you guys. So we decided to mainly share a couple of stuff where we were really surprised that it worked really well. Where I thought, okay, like Joost, who was leading our program, said, okay, we should do this stuff, and I thought, okay, why not? The real work is differently, but some of these things that actually really made a difference on long term, that's, I thought, is really nice to share and useful for you, we hope. Don't think because we share a couple of stuff that works that it was easy, because, but we can't tell everything. Anyway, let's get started. To explain you a little bit about where we are. In simple, so the structure we were working in is basically with 3 layers. So we work in a scaled agile environment, and you can see we have agile release trains. So basically those are kind of 5 to 10 agile teams, each of these train symbols. And so the mission we got was make it easier to get stuff done with IT. And so what we have, because IT is quite big, we have quite a lot of these teams. That's why we bundled them in arts, this agile release train. So basically what typically happens is if business wants a change done in IT, you see the little briefcase on top, then they go to their favorite agile release train. We call them business-facing arts, the middle layer, and they ask them, can you please help us do this thing? And they know them well, they usually work with the same. And then these business-facing art might talk to a couple of shared services, like cloud, like data, and might make use of services from them. So far, so simple. What happened is last year, they said, there was a wish from business, they said, actually, I would like this to be a little bit faster. So they went to their favorite colleagues from their business-facing art and asked very nice and politely, it's really great what you're doing, but can you do it a little bit faster? And then, of course, they really, really want it, because one thing is they're very, very minded, customer-minded. They really want to please the business, do the right thing. But they also felt like, I need a lot of many other arts to get my work done, because they needed a couple of shared services for this. And to what is the thing with dependencies, many of these dependencies we found out, they're actually done by discussion. So so when this business-facing art in the middle was discussing with the shared services, the shared services also really wanted to do the best. They're really hard-working. But at the same time, they have also other people coming to them and asking for help. And they actually said, in order to deliver, and in order that we can plan our work, because a lot of people want something from us, we would like you to tell us a bit earlier what you need, so we can also plan and deliver. So you can maybe feel a bit of the pressure. So some people from the top layer say, I'd like to get it faster. The bottom layer said, come to us earlier. And people are really working hard, and it's really painful, but we couldn't really get this tension easily out. And so what we did in the last year, we decided to implement in the end, fast forward to the solution, team topologies and platform engineering to help release this tension between the two bottom layers.
The thing is, though, ASML is not really a small company, and then you get some extra additional complications. How do you scale this for a large organization? We have about 500 teams or so. That's what you're talking about, the scale that we were looking at. That's a lot of teams that you have to manage all of a sudden. And it feels a little bit like there are these tiny boats on a big lake. They're slowly drifting apart from each other. And for us, it was like, how do we get them a bit close to each other? They actually start collaborating in the right way. How do you get those little boats on the lake closer towards each other? It's an extra challenge that we had on top of already these difficult things to implement. We started this journey about slightly over a year ago, and if we now fast forward 1 year, where we are now is we basically see that nearly the whole IT organization knows what team topologies and platform engineering is about. They understand it to some degree, and you see actually a lot of implementations happening in several parts of the organization already. Doesn't mean that we're done, because this takes a lot more time. I mean, I think Manuel, you said it also, that it's typically, 1 year, well, it could also be 3 years. It takes some time. But we do see a lot of traction already happening, and it's quite amazing to see that traction happening. And what we want to do indeed now is, what did we learn? How did we get that traction in such a large organization, basically, and share that a little bit back with you?
Yeah, so how did we create traction? And here's one interesting thing we learned, and this is something we learned looking back. I mean, we played on the feedback we got, but something we learned is that it's quite a big ship to steer. It's quite a big spaceship that we wanted to get into motion, where we wanted to change direction. And we noticed relatively fast there are actually not every person in the spaceship is the same. There are different groups. And people have a different reality, and they want to have this change of direction. They want to have a different. They might resonate better with a different type of language, like the person in the ship, from the captain's point of view. It's a different reality than if you're in the machine room. It's a different thing that you notice that you're on the right track to this better world in these different areas. And so we noticed that we were looking a lot at these 3 different groups. So we were looking at, in 2 ways. We were looking at the language that these different groups needed. We were looking at our communication plan. How do we take, for example, senior management along? We noticed that they resonated with different stories and, for example, with the art leadership, because they were working on different approaches and also with really different things in the team. The stuff where the art leadership was really excited about would maybe not excite a developer. Some, yes, but we saw there were different tendencies. And also the other thing why it was important that we looked at these different groups is that when we were getting volunteers to help us analyzing the situation, that's the first thing we did, we got people from these 3 different groups and from really different positions. So we had like from developer, scrum master, group lead, more senior management. We have had different people inside our group of volunteers and also from different parts of the organization. So it's quite a big IT organization. And that actually was really, really useful, because later when we were explaining in a later time the approach to different parts of the organization, we always had, for example, people from certain positions in our group who made sure that the communication, that it made sense for people on different levels. And also we could always say, by the way, from your area, Jan was part of our team. I'm just saying a name. So just that people had a familiar name that they already knew, that they felt that their area, which, as we all know, our area is special, whatever area it is, but we knew it was represented. So people also trusted a bit more. And also our communication, our view of the system was actually a lot better with all these different voices. What we did with this group, first thing was analyzing the problem. So as I said, we got this mission, make it easier to get stuff done with IT. So one thing we did is we looked at the data we already had in the system we had. That was the dependency data. That gave us a lot of different data. It doesn't tell you the whole truth. I mean, it's just from a tool. And in addition, again, we were making interviews, again, with a group of 15 different arts, and we were asking them about where do you have, so it was really, what do you have dependency with? And when you really take time to make this interview longer than 5 minutes, but maybe an hour or 2, people tell you also about what their problem is, or what's working well. And it was actually also quite interesting. So one thing I learned at this time is that dependencies are not all the same. There are, for example, those dependencies that we found in the data, that when we asked people about this, they actually first said, oh no, we don't have dependencies. But later they looked, they had such a good collaboration with, for example, the neighboring area that they forgot that they have dependencies at all. So these are not the dependencies that we worry about. What we worry about are planning dependencies. When you notice in your development, oh, I need this other group of people, and you can feel it in your body, and you think, okay, now I need to really take care with planning. And I need to do a couple of things, but you might still not be 100% sure that it's going to be fine. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but the dependencies where you need to make effort. So those are actually the interesting dependencies that we want to get rid of or make it easier to work with. Yeah, I think that's actually the main thing about the data. And we noticed that when we had this data about analyzing what's really what's causing the pain in the company at this part, we noticed that the main people who were interested in this data were in senior management and inside the art leadership. And we noticed that especially there are people in all parts of the organization who are more data-minded, and if you say, hi, we're Andrea and Tom, we would like to help you, then the first thing they ask you, are you sure it's actually making sense? And then we very often went through the data, actually through the whole year. This was something we did at the beginning, the data analysis, but we got back to it all over again the whole year. And for those people who were more data-minded, tells them, yes, actually we are sure that this is not just what we believe, but actually the group of volunteers, we had photos of the people from the different areas who took these interviews so that people knew these were trustworthy people. This is not just consultants who want to do something. It's the own people from different areas who made this data analysis. And then 5 minutes later, we could continue and explain what we were doing. So having the data with the trustworthy people was very, very important, especially for these two groups.
So what we'll do, and you'll notice that, is that we'll use this picture and we'll slowly build that up for you. So at the end, if for all those people that like to make pictures, there will be one at the end that is the full picture. But we'll talk about all kinds of things, at least, that we've learned. So one of them is leverage your industry standards. At least it's a bold way of phrasing it. But one of the things we've noticed when we said, hey, we know that team topologies and platform engineering, these kinds of practices, they're useful and we think they can help our organization. Then there's a lot of people think, well, what does the industry do? And then as soon as you start researching it, and I think actually we saw that earlier today as well, it's getting more and more of an industry standard. Gartner is recognizing both, SAFe is including team topologies, you see a lot of the tech giants looking at platform engineering and promoting it. So you could already argue it is to some extent an industry standard, and putting it that way really helps also motivating a different group within or different type of people within the organization. But that's not all that you want to do. In this case, we actually started talking to our industry peers as well. So we had like round tables or knowledge sharing sessions. And by doing them with peers in the industry, you figure out quite quickly, hey, we have similar problems. That does two things. One is you learn from each other, super useful because you see similar problems and you can learn how to overcome them. But at the same time, the second thing it does, it proves basically that the industry is moving in this direction, which in turn helps the rest of our organization understand that this is the right way forward. And that typically worked actually best at senior management level. They are the ones that want to know these kind of things. Are we making the right calls here? Something completely different, though, was looking at our own organization, finding use cases in our own organization was quite helpful. It actually surprised us when we started looking at our own organization how many places we found where these things were already being implemented. We thought it might be like 1, 2, 3 places, but we actually found several locations where both team topologies and platform engineering were being implemented. The fascinating thing, though, was they were local initiatives, and they didn't typically know about each other either. So they didn't know that the other ones were doing these implementations. And it was really helpful to bring these people together because all of a sudden they start exchanging knowledge and so on, right? But at the same time, that also helps us using these people to broadcast that message to the rest of the organization, saying, hey, we're already doing these things. Typically, these were the people that we even looked up to, and they could then broadcast that message to the rest of the organization again. So it's incredibly powerful to look at your own organization because it's quite likely there's already some local initiatives happening. We were surprised actually at what we found. But this was really powerful actually to convince the Agile Release Train leadership again. Because it's peers among each other that could share these messages within the organization, saying, hey, we're doing this already. Look at our Agile Release Train. We see these benefits. Might be useful for you to do as well, and you can help each other. But at the same time, this is also where that leadership position can help broadcast messages back to the teams because they can also understand, hey, this is something that we might want to start looking at ourselves as well. And you need to empower the teams as well, but typically we notice that Agile Release leadership is the main place where that starts. Yeah, and actually, building on that a little bit, so what we maybe good to mention still, I know we've been telling so many people we shouldn't talk too much, we cannot tell you the whole story, talk to us at the coffee machine later, but it is maybe worth mentioning that we had what we call sprint review. Every 4 weeks, we were reporting back to the organization where we were, honestly, also with the data collection, so that people knew what we were doing, could honestly see where we are, could learn. And also it was really cool. For example, when we heard from some people, oh, there is a group and they changed some of the dependencies where some people have really pain from. So we asked them, can you tell us 10 minutes in the sprint review to the rest of the organization? And that actually made such a big difference. People talked to us after in the elevator about it. And we got a lot of feedback from people coming to us. And it gave people hopes that they saw, oh, these people already solved it. So it is safe to make these kind of solutions. One can do it. So that people can see there is something, positive experience, and they can repeat it.
is really so impactful. I wouldn't have thought that. And that's actually relating to what, with all the data, it is shown in psychology and again, what we really believe are personal stories. We say we want data, but we really believe this one person we've seen who has already done it. So we made use of this also. So when we were presenting our data collection to senior management to get the go-ahead to put more time in the rollout, suggested that we make it a standard to work with team topologies. This was presented by one of the person from an area where there was really a lot of pain with dependencies, and she was presenting the data and telling from her own experience how it is to work every day with so much dependencies and how difficult it is and how much she wants to change it and her team. So, and we were at this time really then looking who are known people in the organization, people who are there since a while, people who are trusted by many other people. So we made use of this and to combine the trusted voices with the data. And then the next thing, once we got buy-in from management, we got the go-ahead, okay, according to the data, we should really work with team topologies and do more with platform engineering. This was this one thing that we got told in the dry runs. We hope you don't have the rotten tomatoes with you, but we gave line management something, a simplified version of team topologies. So it kind of it was again by a volunteer group in 8 weeks. It was there were some they suggested based on feedbacks they got from the main pain that we had at this time in the organization. They came up with some rules, like we showed you we have these 2 types of arts, the business-facing arts and the service arts. And they said in the business-facing art, certain type of team types are allowed, and you should not mix team colors in a team. A team should have only one color. And the others, the service art, has only other colors allowed. So it's not very purist, but it helped the organization to make a next step. So it was a way how we could have a North Star, how line management could help roll out this. And it gave a North Star to the organization so that people in the organization could move ahead. They knew this was the way to go. They still had some way to go, but they had some kind of direction. And I know we should speed up.
So the last thing that we want to talk about is that, so we talked about those 3 different layers. But as Andrea mentioned already, each of those different layers, they speak a different language. So we need to paint a picture for them. What will this change look like for them? And for each one of them, you need to do that in a slightly different way. So let's actually go through these 3 layers quickly, at least, and how we were able to get them more engaged. So the example Andrea already gave us, we use everyday examples for our senior leadership. We used an analogy, actually. In this case, something with how you build a bathroom and that you shouldn't carry water. It was a simplified example that we used, but it spoke very well to our senior management. Senior management has little time, typically, so how do you get them understanding the bigger problems, but also, to some extent, understand the solution and the direction that we're taking? And this really helped us to get them on board as well, because they started to some extent understand it, but then you get more traction and they want to understand better also the underlying things. The thing you do have to do with senior management, though, is make it actionable. Because if it's just, this is what what we want to reach, then they will ask, but how do we get there? And so you do need to think about how are you going to make that actionable.
Yeah, so we had a lot of stories of people carrying building pipes instead of carrying water by hand. Deep inside, we wanted to explain them team topologies, but this just really resonated better. So, yeah.
As soon as you go to that agile release train level, though, that is where team topologies, for example, really resonated well. It creates a common language. People start to understand each other better. And especially since an agile release train typically consists of, like, let's say 5 to 10 teams, that's also the level at some point already that you can start thinking about these structures. One thing that we love about team topologies is it just creates pretty pictures, but that helps people to think along and make something complex a bit more simple. But at the same time, it's at least that common language that starts helping these art leaderships to also discuss it with each other. Hey, what does your domain look like? How can we improve it? And how can we work better together? How are our interaction modes between us, for example? Can we take a look at those?
Yeah, and we worked with the art leadership, we worked in workshops, so we gave the information, and with some groups we were drawing the arts, drawing the colors, and it was really surprising that what they really said is the main thing, they really appreciated the common language. Everybody had found for similar phenomena their own words, and they were so curious to learn from each other, and they really said common language is really one of the key things that brings us forward.
So, we didn't talk that much about the team level, and they're essential in this whole story as well. One thing that we wanted the teams to actually do is experience the difference a bit. So you want to involve them as much as we can, but especially that art leadership, we wanted to empower them to be able to facilitate the workshops and continuation of this journey, so they can keep on evolving it over time. But the teams, you need to get them on board and let them understand it as well. So we try to let them experience the difference, basically. What does it bring them? I mean, that big maquette, the buildings that I talked about in the beginning, that was one way of doing it, but also we have some workshops where they can experience it like in 45 minutes. What will it bring this for me? Why is it so relevant? And that really got them engaged as well. The last thing, though, is, and this is somewhat frustrating for us, but you need to keep on repeating this. This message, it's a big organization, and everyone needs to, well, hear it multiple times even, because if you say it once, they will not remember. You need to keep on repeating that. And for example, the example of the sprint reviews, having that in place for the larger organization really helped us a lot. But also when you talk to all these different stakeholders, you need to keep on repeating your message. It's the most important thing actually that you can do. And was the most fruitful, I think.
And if you think you repeat it enough, you need to multiply it at least with 3. Don't be met with people where you think you've been in this session for 3 months, and why do you ask me this question? No, it's really, this is a reality. You really need to keep it a lot more than you think. Yeah. And with different words, different people. So to conclude, we definitely know we set something in motion, what we achieved in a year, and we know we told you a couple of pieces only, but so Team Topologies is set as a standard. It doesn't mean that the whole organization is working at it, but everybody, I think, has heard about it enough times to know it is the standard, and to know that it is something that brings you value to your team, especially in all the platform areas. We've talked with a lot of people, and the values and that the buy-in is there is accepted. And we did a couple of pilots, and we kept on sharing the good stories so that people can get inspired and can get some motivation and energy to start their experiment. And yeah, the same with platform engineering, exactly, which in our case was the second step after the Team Topologies. Yeah, there's something that it's set in motion. Sometimes we heard people saying, you have now 3 more months, is it done then? Said, yeah, you know how it is. It's not done, it takes a while.
And it's still in motion, but it is evolving and continuing and getting a bigger and bigger traction in the organization, more and more implementations happening.
Yeah.
So I find that really exciting still.
Absolutely. So we hope we could inspire you as well a bit, and we're really curious to hear from you. Please, if you like, get in touch with us. This is our LinkedIn address. We are really curious to hear best practices from you guys and other examples in bigger, safe environments maybe, or what helped you implementing it.
Thank you very much.